Hey, the big man. Listen to the big man.
Are you ready now? Ready, I'm ready. Extraordinary.
Peace and power, family. You're now multidimensionally tuned into another video. Fam, and in today's video, we'll be talking about the anatomy of the brain. So, I've prepared some slides here. As you know, this is a new style of letting this, come through. As you can see, you're now multidimensionally tuned in. Now, I prepared some slides in here, family, to make you understand a great way of, just understanding the brain in a brief way. So I'm not going to make it too complicated because these slides are about 30 to 40. I'm not going to make it too complicated. I'm going to breeze through, but I'll make sure that by the end of the slide, you understand the basic anatomy of the brain and the functionings of every part of your brain, as well as how to better understand, how to self-hack your brain, and what to eat, and basically the activities you should do to help your brain, and basically how to become better friends with your brain, improve the relationship with your brain, because a lot of us, we have brains, and this is not a stroke at anyone, but a lot of us have brains and we don't even know how to talk to the guy. We don't even know how to tell the guy, all right, bro, look, man, I want to exercise right now, so I need you to put yourself in the situation whereby we can have a lengthy exercise, or basically we don't even know how to. A lot of us can't set intentions on how to use our brain, and in order to set intentions that involve cooperative functionings with the brain, we have to let the brain know. And not only we have to let the way we let the brain know is not by telling the brain, is by understanding the states we can put the brain in, and understanding how these particular states can be affected and what needs to be done to affect them. So with that being said, that is just the intro. So this is the first slide. You are now multidimensionally tuned in. You know how it is. So get ready to see more slides like this very frequently. All right. So now so I proceed, fam. So now, first things first, I go on to the next slide. Now, the brain. Okay, so the brain, what is the brain? As you can see here in my diagram, okay, in this beautiful diagram, the brain, right, is a complex organ that serves as a center of the nervous system in all vertebrates and most invertebrate animals. Okay, when I say all vertebrate and invertebrate animals, you must understand that I'm talking about worms, snakes, cockroaches, all animals that have an exo and endoskeletons. Basically all living things have a brain system, but they just have different ways that their brain systems are structured. For this, what we have here, this is a human brain's brain structure. So in this presentation, we'll be dealing on how the human brain functions. All right, and the human brain's basically functionings and the inner workings, and the characteristics of the human brains, and how we can better manipulate it to make ourselves hack this vessel. Now, it is located in the head, usually close to the sensory organs for senses such as vision, taste, and things of that nature. Okay, you feel me? So now, next slide. Now you see, there are 4 major brain structures. Okay, and as you can see in this picture here, first things first, this is the structure of basically the brain structure of the average living organism. Okay, every living organism can literally be can be categorized with this type of structure. Okay, and the structure basically boils down to the forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain, and spinal cord or not. But basically we in all living, dogs, cats, cockroaches, once again, why did I say cockroaches? Dogs, cats, it doesn't matter. They're all living things, all right? Animals, okay, to be more specific with you, okay? Dogs, cats, call it what, birds, they can all be, their brain system, right, can all be, their system of of thinking can be broken down into the forebrain, all right, the midbrain, all right, the hindbrain, and the spinal cord. Okay, the brain has segments because these different segments help us to not only just think, but help us to do the outer workings and the inner workings, as well as things like regulations and more things of that nature that I'll delve more into as we proceed with this course. Okay, so now as you can see here in this diagram, this is the human brain. Okay, this is the human brain, and these are the major structures. These major structures that are components of, you know, living the average animal. All right, this is now how it shaped itself to take shape in the human brain. In a cat's brain, it will be a different structure. In a dog's brain, it will be a different structure, and so on and so forth. So now in the human brain, you know, we have the forebrain, right, being this here. This is the forebrain, right, being located in our cerebrum. We have the midbrain being located, you know, in our hypothalamus, which I'm gonna get to, and then we have the hindbrain being, you know, located in the cerebellum and brainstem, which I will still get to, and then we have the spinal cord being mostly the brainstem, connected to the brainstem. But as you can see here, the orange part is the forebrain, the midbrain is the green part, and the hindbrain is the red part or the pink part, whatever color you want to call it. So let me delve more into it. Now that was the basic structures, and now this is now the sections of the human brain. We're not talking now about, you know, the animal's brain. No, this is the human brain. This is our own, you know, a section, and how we can categorize it and better understand it. So the human brain, you know, is broken down, is divided into four main sections, respectively. You know, the brainstem, the cerebellum, you know, the thalamus, and the cerebrum. As you can see, the cerebrum is the biggest part of the brain. It has a lot to do more with voluntary activities, and I'm gonna get more into the detailed explanations and the detailed workings individually of this parts of the brain. So now we see the thalamus here. Okay, the thalamus has to do with, you know, the third ventricle of the brain, as well as, you know, the things like the hypothalamus, as well as the pituitary gland, but I'm gonna get more into that. And then we have, you know, the cerebellum. You know, this is the cerebellum here, and then we have the brainstem. Okay, this is the brainstem here. So now I'm gonna start first by explaining from bottom to top. Let me start by explaining the brainstem. I'm gonna explain what they are, their functions, as well as how they communicate and work with each other. Okay, family. The intention of this video is to make you understand how your brain works. These are the functions of the brain. So yeah, let's get on that. Now, next up, this is the brainstem. So I'm starting from bottom to top, as listed in the diagram that we just saw before. Now, the brainstem. What is the brainstem? The brainstem, according to my, you know, explanation here, the brainstem is responsible for the inflow of information into the forebrain. Okay, remember, this is the forebrain, the main brain. Okay, so is responsible for the inflow of information into the forebrain through the sensory nerves. All right, and outflow of information through the motor nerves. Now, the sensory nerves are the nerves in the brain, and I'm gonna talk more on the sensory nerves deep into the topic. But the sensory nerves basically are the nerves that take information inside the brain. So as you can see, this is the brain stem, right? So the sensory nerves, just follow my mouse. The sensory nerves take information through here, poop, into the brain, and the motor nerves. The sensory nerves take information right from the spinal cord into the brain, make sense of it, and then the motor nerves bring it out of the, you know, the frontal lobe, you know, it through, you know, the motor, it brings it out from here, okay, to the brainstem as well, into the body, right, to now act out on that information that has been made. Okay, you feel me? So that's basically what it means, right? That's the main function of the brainstem. All right, so the brainstem is divided into basically three parts, which can be, you know, respectively, you know, we have the midbrain, which is this green part we can see here, just right below the thalamus. All right, so we have the midbrain, we have the pons, and then we have the medulla oblongata. Okay, you feel me? So now you can see that is located here as well. This is, you know, the midbrain being this green part under the thalamus. The thalamus is not part of the brainstem, but it's just, you know, it's not part of the brainstem. But then you can see here the midbrain is here, the pons, this is the blue one, and the medulla oblongata is this part. So as you can see, this is an extension of the spinal cord. Okay, now the functions of the brainstem, as we have here, fam, this involves breathing. As you know, breathing takes in information into the brain, which is prana, air, whatever you want to call it. Breathing brings out information. Digestion too has a lot to do with the processing of, you know, our brain processes digestion subconsciously. We are not aware, but our brain processes digestion as well, because, you know, our brain processes digestion. So basically that information comes in maybe when the information has been digested, and then our brain needs to take that information and bring out information as well. The same thing works that way, as well as circulation, blood circulation and information circulation, and as well as heart rates, you know, regulation and things of that nature. So in heart rates, you know, circulation, okay, and information of, you know, the rates of the heart rate. Okay, so basically in a nutshell, right, this is the midbrain, okay, and the midbrain, this is the pons, this is the medulla oblongata, okay, and this is the connection to the cervical spine. You can see that the midbrain, you can see that the brainstem looks like you know, the Egyptian drawing of Horus. Okay, this looks like a bird, like a hummingbird. You can see this feather. All right, this is why the Egyptians represented this part of the brain as Horus. Okay, you see this here. This is the pineal gland here. This is the third ventricle. This is the fourth ventricle. This is the pituitary gland. And I'm gonna get deep into all these things with family. So, in essence, I want you to understand what I've just said now. So, the brain stem, all right, being one out of the 4 sections of the brain, is responsible for what? The inflow and outflow of information to and fro the brain. Boom. Now let's go to the next part. Now we have the cerebellum. Okay, the cerebellum, like I said here in this other chart I mentioned, I just did the brain stem. The cerebellum is next, this red part of the brain. So let's get at it. The cerebellum right now, this is the cerebellum. I'm gonna get to that, but yeah, the cerebellum, right, which in Latin is called little brain, okay, is a major structure of the hindbrain, okay, that is located near the brain stem. All right, this part of the brain is responsible for coordinating voluntary movements. Okay, voluntary movements. Voluntary movement means things like moving things consciously. All right, moving things in this 3D consciously, like I'm moving my hand, moving my eyes, doing like consciously moving my eyes. Okay, not involuntary will be blinking, but voluntary basically means the conscious things you're doing, basically moving your muscles. All right, you feel me? Moving your muscles voluntarily. All right, so this part of the brain is responsible for voluntary movement, full stop. It is also responsible for a number of functions, including motor skills such as balance, coordination, and posture. Okay, so you must understand that the cerebellum is responsible for things like, when we stay like this and our head needs to come back. So how do you know that your head is meant to come back here? Who gives you that? Why don't you put your head this way? Because it needs to balance. Okay, everything is balanced. How do you know that you need to put your hand down? How do you know that you need to, close one eye or close both eyes instead of closing one? You see, all these things are, I would say, subconscious, but basically, these are actions, all right, and voluntary actions that are different parts of our brain make. Okay, so let's not limit our minds to basically understanding that the brain only just does all it's thinking, or is it? No, it goes deeper. Okay, all parts of the body work in harmony. First things first, I'd like to let you know first that this brain that we're talking about here, this is the analytical brain. All right, and this is just a spice to the topic. We have 3 brains, fam. Not only is this brain our brain, we have this brain being the logical brain. We also have the heart, which is your brain, and it's 5,000 times more electromagnetically in tune than this one. The brain, does more logical. The heart does more feeling for us. All right, and and the brain is more of an electrical functioning device. The heart is more of a electromagnetic functioning device, right? And then we have the gut being our third brain, which has to do more with instinct and subconscious, that informations. So anyways, that's just a food for thought. So anyway, so now you can see this is the cerebellum. This is the position of the cerebellum in the human's brain, as you can see here, this part. And this is the left and right brain hemispheres showing us the positions of the cerebellum. All right, you see this here. So this is located at this part of your brain here, this part of your brain, okay? All right, so now next, so that's the cerebellum, and this deals with, like I said, voluntary movements. All right, family, so boom, that's the key word. All right, next up is the thalamus. All right, the thalamus is just right on top of the brain stem, which we discussed earlier. So if you look at this diagram here, this is the thalamus. All right, this is the brain stem, which we have here, this orange looking thing. This is the thalamus, and this is the cerebellum looking here. All right, you feel me? So respectively, this is the third ventricle area being the yellow side, this is the fourth ventricle area being the orange side. All right, so let's get this done. Now, what is the thalamus? The thalamus acts as a relay center, receiving and distributing information between the peripherals and higher centers such as the cerebral cortices. Pardon me. All right, the cerebral cortices. Now, in my explanation, this is what it is. All right, simple and short. Now, the thalamus is this. This is just like the data center. You see, it's the middle of the brain. What happens is every information that comes in, it makes sense of it and relays it to wherever it's meant to be. All right, it's like a middleman. All right. Okay, you give me information. Maybe information comes in through this part. This is the cerebrum. It comes in through here. Boom. It must pass through the thalamus, and the thalamus says, okay, you want to take it to the body. All right. Boom. I'll pass it through the brainstem. Or it comes through the brainstem. Boom. And it comes into the brainstem, and then it wants to act as a voluntary action. The thalamus will say, okay, you wanna do something voluntary, all right, boom, I'll send it to this, or you get me. So this is like a relay center, okay? So it's a distribution center. It distributes information, that it receives, all right, and distributes information, okay, between the peripherals the peripheries and higher centers such as the cerebral cortexes. Okay, so this is the cerebral cortex, all right, and these are, you know, the peripheries, more like the peripherals, the additional, the extra parts of the brain, you feel me? So boom, that is what it does, the middleman center. So boom. Now the functions of the thalamus, all right, you can see the location of the thalamus first things first here. You see where it's located at, all right? So it's really explanatory, all right, you feel me? And they sometimes called the thalami, because there are two, all right? Thalamus, mus is single, thalami, whatever, man. But yeah, anyways, man. Now the functions of the thalamus, all right, respectively, this involves a consciousness. Okay, it deals with consciousness because, you know, it deals with sleep, you know, memory, sensory and motor functions as well, because basically what this does, like I said earlier, this is it receives and makes sense of information and relays the informations to different parts of the brain. So this is a very crucial part of the brain, hence making it to be why it's the middleman and it's in the center. Okay, and the pineal gland is just in the middle. The pineal gland is located just in the center of the thalamus. Okay, so you see the pineal gland is like our IC, you know, just like how a phone has an IC chip. You know what an IC means? An integrated circuit. Is a very small circuit but the most powerful circuit in an entire device, a phone or even your car. Basically that small chip, that is what the pineal gland is, and the pineal gland is located in the thalamus, which is in the third ventricle of the brain. So with all that being said, now that's the thalamus, which is the third part of the you know, the section of the brain respectively. I've explained the brainstem, the cerebellum and the thalamus. Now next up is the cerebrum. Now I'm gonna get to that real quick. So now okay, let me come back here now. This is the thalamus. Okay, now I must let you know that before I get to the cerebrum, this extension, okay, this is the thalamus here. If you notice here, this has an extension here, and in this diagram I have of the thalamus, it just shows that it's here. All right, it just shows here, it doesn't show this extension. All right, you see, none of it really shows this extension. Now let me explain to you what this part extension is. This extension is called the hypothalamus. All right, the hypothalamus is an extension of the thalamus. You see this here, so this brings you know, this explains it. So the thalamus is the name of that, you know, section, all right, but the hypothalamus is an extension of the thalamus which does certain functions as well. Okay, the thalamus houses the pineal gland, you know, which is the third ventricle of the brain, but the hypothalamus houses the pituitary gland. All right, you feel me? But I will explain that, you know, in detail. So if you're not familiar with the pineal gland and pituitary gland respectively, these two glands play a part. You know, these glands are associated with our chakras. These are respectively associated with our third eye chakra and crown chakra. All right, and they work together. When the pituitary gland, it moves. All right, you see how it looks here. It moves, and this awakens. You know, it sends a signal and awakens the pineal gland. That's as basic and as I can explain it. All right, but yeah, a conscious effort has to be made to move it anyways. But anyways, this has a lot to do with breath work and, you know, prana. Okay, how you can practice breath work. But yeah, that's not what I want to talk about. So that's just a plus. Now let's talk about the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus right now helps keep the body's internal functions in balance. Okay, it regulates. All right, it regulates. That's the regulation is the key word. Okay, regulates temperature, regulates, you know, things of that nature like growth. I have some examples of things it regulates here. Right, you see, it regulates the appetite and weight as well as body temperature. You know, childbirth. Okay, you know, a childbirth meaning that it knows what time things are ready. Okay, regulation simply means, you know, timekeeper. Okay, knowing how to the automatic functions of time. You can say, maybe should I say a CMOS battery, which can automatically, you know, just determine the time of something, like the time in the computer, the clock. Okay, the time. Okay, without you, you know, you can just take your phone now. How come your phone, you turn it off, turn it on, the time is always there? Or your computer, you turn it off, turn it on, the time is always there. This is due to something called a CMOS battery. So you can somehow relate the functions of a hypothalamus in a way, shape or form, because this deals with basically timing, regulation. Okay, it regulates things in the body, temperatures and what have you. It also regulates emotions. Okay, you can't be mad forever. You know, you're angry today, all of a sudden the next thing you're kind of okay, all right, you're chill, now you're happy, you're cool. All right, this is how you can understand, you know, the functions of the thalamus. All right, it also regulates growth. You know, you grow without calculating how you grow. Okay, things of this nature. Basically what I said again, regulation. Okay, so I'm gonna just finish up the contents. Production of breast milk, okay, which comes automatically, you know, and, you know, salt and water balance in your body. Okay, you don't do this consciously. Sex drive, this, you can't keep on having sex, no, you need to sometimes chill, you know, then go back to the thing, you get me? Anyways, then sleep and wake cycle and basically the body clock. All right, you feel me? So this is the hypothalamus, as you can see in this diagram. This thing you see here, this is the hypothalamus, okay? And the extension you see of this hypothalamus here is the pituitary gland, which I'll be explaining next, okay? Now, we have the pituitary gland, okay? So the pituitary gland, which is still an extension of the hypothalamus, which is still an extension of the thalamus, okay? It's still an extension of the hypothalamus. Coming back to my first diagram to just make sure you don't get lost. This is the thalamus right here. This whole complete thing is the thalamus. But the extension now, here to here is the hypothalamus, and here now is the pituitary gland. So if you can notice the pituitary gland, you can see this part which is not green as well. Yes, the pituitary gland is divided into two, all right, which I'll be listing now. Now, first of all, we have the first part of the pituitary gland, which is the anterior pituitary hormone. First things first, the anterior pituitary hormone is referred to as, the master gland, because together with the hypothalamus, which it is connected to, the thalamus, it orchestrates the complex regulatory functions of many other endocrine glands, okay? So this has to do with the regulation of and secretion of glands, okay? Now next, this is the anterior pituitary gland, and you can see, look at its location. This is the anterior pituitary. We also have the posterior pituitary, okay? You can see the anterior and the posterior. So the anterior was the part we saw that was looking, this is the anterior over here, the part that isn't green, but the posterior is the part that is green. So now let me explain what the posterior is now. So the posterior, which is also connected to the thalamus, all right, the posterior pituitary, both of them these are both pituitary hormones, but they both make up the pituitary gland, all right? Together they make up the pituitary gland, okay? So if you see, this is what the pituitary gland looks like. It looks like two things, all right? I don't want to say what this two thing looks like. It looks like somebody's balls. All right, hold on. You see my mouth, right? If I open my mouth, that thing you see that there are two, I've forgotten what they call that. Uvula, bro. Damn, man, crazy. All right, let's just get to the point. So the posterior pituitary gland, this is a collection, all right, of axonal projections. And what is an axonal projection? I'm gonna get to that as we proceed. This is a collection of axonal projections from the hypothalamus, all right. An easy way of understanding the axonal projection is just like saying, a connectivity, okay? Look at this, a connectivity, all right, a connectivity of neurons. All right, so let's get this. Now this is a collection of axonal projections from the hypothalamus, all right, that terminates behind the anterior pituitary gland. It terminates behind. So this is the posterior, this is the anterior, okay? You feel me? Now and serves as a site for secretion of hypophyseal hormones, all right, directly into the blood. So in a nutshell, the work that the anterior and posterior pituitary hormones do, these together form the pituitary gland, and what they do is that they relay together with the hypothalamus, they orchestrate regulatory functions, okay? They orchestrate regulatory functions because the glands are stored here in the posterior pituitary, okay? The glands are stored in the posterior pituitary. So these are so they now relay that regulatory function into the hypothalamus and then to the forebrain. All right, so with that being said, that's just a basic understanding of what this is. All right, so now I go on to the cerebrum. All right, to the cerebrum, which is the fourth section of the human brain. All right, you feel me? Let me just go back to that my little chart. So you see, I've explained the brainstem, the cerebrum, as well as the three parts of the thalamus. And now I'm going to the brainstem, cerebellum, as well as the three parts of the thalamus. And now I go on to the cerebrum, which is the final part of these sections of the brain, the way we see it. Now, boom, the cerebrum. Now, what is the cerebrum? You see, the cerebrum is this part of the brain, all right? So we've left this part. Of the brain. Now we are in this yellow part. You see, this is the cerebrum. Now, the cerebrum, which is also called the front brain or forebrain, whatever you want to call it, is composed of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. As you can see here, we have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere respectively, all right, which are joined by the corpus callosum. And I'm gonna show you the corpus callosum as we proceed. The corpus callosum is this. Follow my hands. This, you see this diagram here? Follow it again. And it extends inside here. So it goes here to here, all right? It connects these two. all right, this thing, but I'm gonna have a better explanation. But yeah, it is joined by the corpus callosum, all right, and it is responsible for the integration of complex sensory and neural functions and initiation and coordination of voluntary activities in the body. Okay, it is responsible once again for the integration of complex sensory and neural functions. These dogs. It is responsible for the integration of complex sensory and neural functions and the initiation and coordination of voluntary activities in the body. Okay, so this does the following functions, the initiation of movement, the coordination of movement as well, as well as temperature, touch, vision, hearing, judgment, reason, problem solving, emotions, and learning. So this carries out a lot of the heavy duty tasks, in the brain, which involves more voluntary activities and and motor activities. And voluntary activities, motor has a lot to do more with the cerebellum, but voluntary activities like thinking, touching, sensing, hearing, feeling, because this takes us to the thing, this talks more about the lobes of the brain. Okay, this has to do more with the lobes. So anyways, man, this is the cerebellum. As you can see here, the pink part of this diagram on the man's brain here, this is where the cerebellum, all this makes up the cerebellum. Okay, once again, this makes up the lobes of the brain, and the cerebellum deals a lot more with if I want to say the heavy duty analytical functions of the brain and storing of memory and things of that nature. We have the cerebellum, the cerebrum. Damn. The cerebrum, that's just cerebrum. So anyways, man, next up. All right, you see this. So these are the neural pathways of the cerebellum. Okay, so you understand now. The cerebrum is divided into 4 lobes, respectively. The frontal lobe, right? This is the frontal lobe here. All right, the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe. The frontal lobe is here, the parietal lobe is here, the occipital lobe is here, and the temporal lobe, I can't touch it, basically the temporal lobe. Okay, this will be where the human eyes is. Okay, this is the back of the head. All right, so yeah, basically. So now let's talk about the neural pathways. The neural pathways, this is when information, right, comes in through the brain stem, which I mentioned the brain stem is where once again the brain stem is responsible for the inflow of information into the forebrain through the sensory nerves and outflow of information through the motor nerves. Now the sensory nerves and motor nerves is what I'm telling you about now. Boom, here we have it. So the sensory nerves and motor nerves. All right, so let's imagine this is the brain stem. Let me just follow my hand. Okay, let's imagine this was an attachment of the spinal cord into the brain stem. As you can see, the brain stem will be this white part you see here. Now information that comes in from your physical body, or maybe from your heart or from your gut, or anything that is relaying the information electrically into the brain, right, is going to go in through the sensory nerves. All right, and then it's going to get into the somatosensory cortex. And basically, what is the somatosensory cortex? The somatosensory cortex takes information into the parietal lobe. Okay, the parietal lobe is the part of the brain that has to do with feeling. All right, feeling, sensing, tasting, all right, emotions, basically feeling, sensing, things that have to do with the feels, feeling, sensing, touching. Okay, when we feeling, all right, so it takes it and makes sense of it. Okay, so now when it makes sense of that information, we have the motor cortex now, which sends information out of the frontal lobe. Okay, the frontal lobe has a lot to do with more voluntary actions. Okay, voluntary actions. How you feel me? So now it sends the information from the frontal lobe back into the body. So the information that has been made sense out of, you felt it, analyzed it, made sense out of it. Now you've now decided how to relate the information now back into the physical representation of the voluntary actions. So the sensory nerve is the nerve that follows the spinal cord to the brain stem to take information into the somatosensory cortex, which makes sense of information. Now after that information has been made sense of in the parietal lobe, now the motor cortex takes the information in the frontal lobe there and now now sends that information out back into the body to make voluntary actions through the motor nerves. All right, you feel me? So basically that's what it is. The motor nerve sends information out of the motor cortex through the brain stem, through the spinal cord, back into the physical body to make use and relay that information, and all these things happen in the speed of light. Yeah, basically that's basically the neural pathways. Now let's discuss about the cerebral cortex, which is this. All right, This is the cerebrum, okay? But now let's discuss about the cerebral cortex. This is the cerebral cortex, okay? Let's talk about the cerebral cortex for a second. You see, this is cerebral cortex, okay? Boom, that's the cerebrum, but you could call it the cerebral cortex. Anyways, the cerebral cortex is divided lengthways, is divided into two cerebral hemispheres, basically connected by the corpus callosum. All right, you see, it's divided into two. All right, you feel me? Boom, boom. But anyways, and so here we'll be talking about the four lobes, basically. So now, traditionally, each of the hemispheres has been divided into four lobes. All right, so these four lobes, I'll be using these four lobes to explain how you can understand how to hack your brain family with frequencies right now. This is, pay very much attention to this part, because this part is gold. Now, first things first, you must understand that, you know, it's divided into four lobes. Respectively, these lobes are, like I said before in this other slide here. All right, I mentioned the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital respectively. All right, so now, boom. Now, we have the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the frontal lobe, which is this part of your head, the parietal lobe, which is here, the occipital lobe, which is at the back, and then the temporal lobe. Now, the frontal lobe has to do with decision making, as we have here. This is the blue side of here. Decision making, impulse control, judgment, emotion control, okay? Decision making, heavy analytical actions. It's more like heavy. So we're going to go from density of the amount of analytical actions, conscious actions, to more non-analyticals, more like subconscious. All right, so boom. So the frontal lobe has a lot to do with decision making, impulse control, judgment, emotion. You see how heavy duty and tasking these controls involve, right? That's the frontal lobe. Those are the kind of actions that involve. Just think of the frontal lobe as the executive, or the leadership, or the president, or the ruler, or the, you know, the chairman, or, you know, the president of the brain. All right, it makes the main decisions. All right, like I said, follow, let's use intensity, or let's use level of voluminous action being worked. The frontal lobe will do a lot more voluminous actions. All right, next up is the parietal lobe, which follows respectively. The parietal lobe has to do with, you know, sensory perception and movement. So this has a lot to do with sensing things, feeling things. All right, you know, the way we sense things with our eyes, the way we sense things with our nose, the way we smell with our nose, taste with our tongue, you know, hear with our ear, feel with our skin, feel with our heart, even that, all those type of informations that involves feelings. Feelings is the key word. Sensing and feeling is interpreted by the parietal lobe. Now, next up we have the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe has a lot to do more with language, sexuality, emotion, hearing, memory. All right, you see. So why did I say this? I said this because you must understand that the temporal lobe, all right, is this has a lot to do more with the memory. Okay, we remember things more with the temporal lobe. We take more actions with the frontal lobe. We feel things and make sense things with the parietal lobe. You see, these are three different forms of experiencing, all right, and expression as well. All right, you feel me? So boom. Now finally we have the occipital lobe, which has to do more with primarily just vision, seeing, vision. All right, the occipital lobe is located in this part of your brain. As you must understand, there's a way seeing works. The sun reflects the light spectrum to the back of our head, and then it's interpreted, and, you know, through our eyes interpret it to see the vibrations of that information, with our here. So information is really being interpreted at the back of our brain, and it's, you know, we use here to now see the information. So our eyes don't only do the seeing, our occipital lobe play a part in doing the seeing. All right, you feel me? So anyways, now apart from, so now these are the follows of the brain and their functions. Now let me go deeper into this. Now let me enter the frequency aspects of how you can now manipulate these parts of the brain. So now, respectively, the divisions of these four lobes, according to the same colors that I've just divided them with here. The frontal lobe being this blue part, okay, the parietal lobe being this yellow part, the theta being the green, and the occipital being the pink. All right, so I want you to understand something. Now, respectively, you know, we have beta, alpha, theta, and gamma. These are brain wave states. So these different brain wave states can be activated, all right, or can be triggered, or can be woken up, or can be, you know, heightened, all right, when we listen to certain frequencies. All right, so I do this all the time. I always have, every morning I listen to certain frequencies. There are certain frequencies I listen to at night. All right, but the idea is not necessarily at morning or at night. When I want to perform certain activities, there are different frequencies I listen to, and along the course of the video I will show you the examples of the frequencies. But let me just tell you them, like I said, beta, alpha, theta, delta respectively. Now the beta frequencies, they stimulate more. We use them when we want to do activities like, I want to go to the gym. If you listen to beta frequencies when you maybe want to go to the gym right now, or you want to do things that basically go to the gym, work out, impulse control, things of that nature that has more to do with controlling a lot of voluntary activities. You're going to, if normally you would gym 20 minutes, watch how you might gym up to 40 minutes. I mean, just check it out. All right, it's going to help you to have more interest and focus towards doing things with your muscles. Now, the parietal lobe, when you listen to frequencies like alpha waves, this help you reading, all right, when it comes to things like reading, okay, listening to, paying attention to something, paying attention, all right, reading, listening to maybe a podcast. Basically, if you have an attention deficit, if you're not the type of person who pays a lot of attention to when you study, read, this is the parietal lobe helps a lot. Okay, now so when you listen to alpha waves can help, all right. And then next up is the theta waves. Frequencies can help to make us remember things. They can help us to have light dreams. They can help us, if we listen to them before we sleep, we can actually dream, all right, and remember our dreams. If we listen to them when we wake up in the morning, we can actually remember more, because this has to do with stimulating the memory side of our brain that actually stores a lot of the memory. All right, you feel me? And now finally is the delta waves. When we listen to delta waves, which helps the occipital lobe, this can actually help us improve our sight. And all this is proven and real. All right, I still have a slide where I'll get you, but let me just give you a summary of the frequency ranges that you can listen to for these individual parts of the brain. Now, starting from the highest to the lowest respectively, beta being the highest, beta frequency can be stimulated by listening to frequencies that range from let's say 12 hertz, all right, 12 hertz to 30 hertz, all right, 12 hertz to 30, around 30 to 40 hertz, all right, but let's say 12 hertz to 30 hertz, all right, that's beta frequencies, all right. In some cases you can say 12 hertz to 40 hertz. Well, then gamma is not here, but gamma would be 40 plus. But anyways, now beta, all right, which has to do mainly with the frontal lobe, is stimulated by listening to frequency ranges that range around 12 hertz to 40 plus hertz, 40 hertz, all right, boom, 40 hertz, let's say 40 hertz, all right, boom. Now, alpha waves are stimulated by listening to frequencies that range around 8 hertz to 12 hertz, all right, 8 hertz to 12 hertz, all right, 8 hertz to 12 hertz. Theta waves are stimulated by frequencies that range around the frequency of 4 hertz to 8 hertz, all right, 4 hertz to 8 hertz, okay, that range. And then delta waves are stimulated by frequencies that involve 0 hertz to 4 hertz, all right, respectively. All right, so with that being said, boom, I move on to hold on. Now, in ancient Kemetic teachings, all right, as you can see, this part of our brain, all right, you can see it goes from beta to alpha to theta to gamma. This can also be referred, the movement of this pattern, you see, this is a pattern. Look at my hand. This is a pattern. And now in ancient Kemet, right, the way we understood the brain and we taught the brain, right, was that we have the ancient Kemetic teachings will say atum, atun, amun, anun. All right, atum, which also means atom, which also can mean Adam, which also whatever you want to put it means the beginning of light. Atom, when atom comes into light, okay, when light particles are created, okay, light, atom, okay, atom, the creation of light, the creation of light particles. All right, so atom, this is why atom has a lot to do with beta frequencies, which has a lot to do with the morning time. Okay, the morning has a lot to do in your body. This represents as when you're now starting to get more physically in tune, and you can now your body's waking up. All right, you're waking up, you're active. Okay, this atom, the creation of atoms, the creation of light particles, the creation of energy, the creation of light. So basically that's atom. Good morning in Egypt, in ancient Kemet, when it's morning we say what? Atum, atum ra. All right, anyways, now we have alpha. The alpha part, this has to do with atun. This is afternoon time. Atun, this is when your body is already it has woken up and then is ready to take on activity. So we have atun. And then the theta part is the evening areas. Okay, so this is morning, afternoon, evening. Theta, which has to do with amun, beginning to get hidden. All right, so now you're beginning to get hidden. Okay, you're beginning to get hidden. Basically, this is the lights, this is darkness, this is light, this is darkness. Here light is created, here light is being used for what is here light is being used, here the light is falling, which is around 6 p.m. 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening to 7 p.m. and so evening time. Okay, amun now is getting hidden, that which is now becoming hidden. And then now we have delta, which is anun, which is in the night time. So theta has to do with evening time, when your body is relaxed, you're not able to do a lot of voluntary work. Now you can do more thinking and access your memory, you feel me? And then delta now has to do with deep sleep, when you're sleeping in the night, when more of the physical and the voluntary parts of your body are inactive, and then the parts of your body that are more functioning are your spiritual self, maybe when you're sleeping at the night and you're dreaming. Okay, you feel me? So this is basically the circadian rhythm, and this pattern I'm drawing now, this is the flow, the circadian rhythm, and this has to do with morning, afternoon, evening, night, like I just mentioned. So atum, atun, amon, anun. With that being said, I proceed to the next slide. Now let's discuss the corpus callosum. I mentioned in this chart that I'll talk about the corpus callosum, which is this part of the brain. Okay, all right, you see here, basically the cerebrum, once again, is composed of the right and the left hemispheres of the brain, right? This is the left hemispheres, which deals with logic. This is the right hemisphere, which deals with creativity, but I'm gonna dive deep into that, so which is adjoined by the corpus callosum. So what is the corpus callosum? Now, the main function of the corpus callosum is the communication between the two hemispheres of the brain. The left brain, which is the logical brain, which is more or less like the masculine brain, which has a lot to do with analytics, calculations, mathematics, logic, language, things of that nature. And the right brain, which has a lot to do with art, feminine brain, right, which has a lot to do with art, creativity, drawing, singing, music, things of that nature, okay? Women are naturally born more with the right brain. Men are more naturally born to use the left brain. But I'm going to go more in depth into this. So the different parts of the corpus callosum connect similar areas of each hemisphere. All right, connect similar areas. So what they do is basically the corpus callosum is that bridge between the left and right hemispheres, which has the potentiality to make the left and right hemispheres, which normally function individually, to function as a whole faster. All right, as a whole faster. So it's like some people might be too creative and less logical. Some people might be very logical and less creative, but then the corpus callosum strengthening this part of your brain to doing certain actions like writing more with your left hand, or if you're right-handed and things of that nature, can strengthen your right brain and things of that nature. So, if we better understand things like this will help us, understand the corpus callosum and how it can, what it does basically is strengthen, make a unity of communication. Just imagine it this way: this is your left brain, this is your right brain, and then there's this bridge. All right, the corpus callosum is this small bridge, right? These two holes. Right, so the more you're strengthening the more, maybe if you're too right brain, the more you start to do more logical things over time, then you practice to do, the corpus callosum will be open and expanded. So see how this hole is wide now. Before you know, it gets to a point where boom, it's like the two brains, they turn to one. All right. So yeah, anyways, go on. So now, brain development, all right, you can see this is the corpus callosum area of the brain. You can see this part here. You can see this brain is split into half, and you're shown this red segment here represents the corpus callosum just above the third ventricle of the brain. And now you can see the corpus callosum, all right, a band of fibers. It's a band of fibers that connects the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It grows and myelinates, all right, rapidly during early childhood. Myelination simply involves when myelination involves the strengthening, or maybe like when nerves grow on top of a cell, right, so that it can work faster. All right, it's like, so I'm gonna have a better explanation to that as we go on. Don't worry, I got you. So growth of the corpus callosum makes communication between the two hemispheres more efficient. All right, growth, like I just said. So lateralization sideness, referring to the specialization in certain functions of each side of the brain, with one side dominant for activity, determining the dominant hemisphere. All these stuff are just the things I said. Anyway, so let me just get to myelination real quick. Myelination is a term in anatomy that is defined as the process of forming a myelin sheet around a nerve to allow nerve impulses to move more quickly. All right, so let's imagine this is the nerve of the let's imagine this is the nerve of the corpus callosum, right? Now this is a myelin sheet, or this green thing. All right, so over time, by practicing to do certain activities that you're not used to, but then will strengthen your corpus callosum, this over time creates the formation of myelin sheets, which now, let's imagine over time, these are myelin sheets, these blue things that are on this red axon, and the axon basically is the path of nerve, the path that nerves pass through, or the path that nerve cells pass through. Okay, so the myelin sheet grows to the axon. So let's imagine if normally this axon, let's just use figuratively or analogically, this from here right now to here, there was a, let me say, like it takes let's say 10 volts of let's say it takes 10 minutes, right, or 10 seconds, 10 volts, all right. But due to the myelin sheath has doubled the energy, okay, or rather it has shortened the time that in which it performs its action. So if we're using voltage, for example, if it takes 10 volts to achieve a successful transfer of information from this part of the axon to the next part, from this part of the nerve through the axon to the next nerve, it is going to take 5 minutes. If it normally takes 10 volts, it is going to take 20 volts now, because it's going to give 20 volts now, because now the myelin sheath amplifies and increases the functionality of the axon along the nerves. So anyway, so basically this is just a basic explanation of what that does. Now we have a part called the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia simply, is a group of structures linked to the thalamus in the base of the brain and involved in coordination and movement. Okay, the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is like a mesh. All right. There are a series of explanations. This is the corpus callosum here, and this is the basal ganglia. All these blue parts. Okay, but what the basal ganglia? Just look at it like clips. Look, I'm just saying figuratively, but this is what it does for real. It holds the two parts of the brain. It's the middle, right? It's that part of the brain that is neither left brain, neither right brain, but it has a joint, a responsibility to join both parts of the brain. All right. So, yeah, boom. So with that being said, now the corpus callosum is the largest white matter structure in the human brain, about 10 centimeters in length and consisting of 200 to 300 million axonal projections. Like I just said earlier, the axonal projections involve the distance between two nerve cells, and we understand that there are billions of nerve cells in this brain. All right, you feel me? So the axonal projection involves not just the distance between two nerve cells. So when like I said, when we have that myelin sheath, due to the programming and the frequent programming of our right brain or left brain to improve the functions of our corpus callosum, all right, what will happen in turn is that this the axonal projection has a myelin sheath which improves its frequency and its performance. Or you understand? So basically that's what happens. All right, so with that being said, yeah, now the left brain, this is the left brain. These are functions of the left brain right now, functions of the right brain. All right, you feel me? So the left brain has analytic thoughts, logic, language, reasoning, science and math, writing, writing, numbers and skills, right hand control. Okay, left brain deals with the right hand. Okay, the left brain deals with the right hand, family. Listen, the left brain deals with the right hand, and now the right brain deals with the left hand. So the right brain deals more with things like awareness, creativity, art awareness, creativity, imagination, intuition, insight, holistic thoughts, music, awareness, 3D forms, and left hand control. All right, controls your left hand. All right, you feel me? So in essence, this is the logical brain thinking, and this is the creative brain. All right, feminine brain, which is the right brain, masculine brain, which is the left brain. So like I said earlier, more women use this part of your brain. This is why more females are very creative in their ways and less logical, and this is why more men are very logical and less creative. You feel me? So this is basically the balance. Okay, energies, polarities. All right, boom. All right, so this is basically normal. This is the normal structure of the brain, the basic structure of the brain. As you can see, like I said earlier, I already explained everything you can see here, but you can now see it for itself. Due to everything I've explained, you can understand. This is the brain stem, right? This is the brain stem, all right, where information passes through from the spinal cord, and then this is the cerebellum, which makes motor. It has a lot to do with motor control. This is the pituitary gland, which has to do with regulation of hormones and glands. This is the third ventricle, which deals with the thalamus and the hypothalamus and houses the pineal glands. This is the cerebral cortex, which has a lot to do with the four lobes of the brain, which respectively are the temporal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the frontal lobe, and then the corpus callosum, which deals with the connection of the two brains. All right, the corpus callosum is the connection between the two brains. I help the two brains interconnect and exchange information with each other and can be enhanced. All right, so basically that's the normal brain. You feel me? So next slide. Yeah. So white matter and axonal projection, I just explained these things. Basically, white matter, which I didn't explain. Okay, white matter, this is a tissue of the brain and spinal cord consisting mainly of nerve fibers with their myelin sheaths. Axonal projection is a long, slender projection of a nerve cell or neurons in vertebrates that typically conducts electrical impulses known as action potentials through your body. All right, so you can see here, this is a nerve, this is the head of, this is a nerve, right? This is a nerve cell, okay? And this is the head of another nerve cell, okay? This green thing. Now this is the nerve cell, this is the head of another nerve cell. Now you see the axon. The axon is this path, is the path between two nerve cells. So this is the tail of a nerve, this is the head of a nerve, this is the tail of a nerve being attached to the head of another nerve. So the axon is this, all right? You feel me? So anyways, boom. So yeah, experts say using your non-dominant hand helps your brain to better integrate its two hemispheres. All right, research shows that musicians who use both hands, all right, have about a 9% increase in the size of their corpus callosum. This is facts, fam. I'm a musician. I play the keyboard. I play music. Okay, I don't necessarily play the keyboard that well, but I played the keyboard for years, so I understand. I know how to use my hands to play music on the keyboard. So over time, I could practicalize this for myself. And if you're a musician or an artist, you're a creative person listening to this, especially if you play the keyboard, you will understand that over time, playing the keyboard makes you know how to use your left hand. So what this does for you, this helps you know how to use your creative brain overall. So you're just creative. All right, you feel me? So anyways, this green part is the corpus callosum. You see, all right. The basal ganglia is the pink part of the brain, all right, which connects the brain, which has a lot to do with gluing the brain, but it has a lot to do with more functions though. And this is the corpus callosum, which has to do with the path of information, the exchange of information between the two brains, or the two ventricles of the cerebral of the the cerebral cortex. Now next up, you see this. This is Albert Einstein's brain, fam. When he died, they took out his brain. This world is sick. But anyways, man, all for knowledge. Alright, don't do that to my brain, man. I know my brain be about shit. If I die, put me. Anyways. Albert Einstein had a colossal corpus callosum. You're trying to confuse me in this shit. He had a colossal corpus callosum, stretching nearly the full length of the brain from behind the forehead to the tip of the neck. All right, damn. The corpus callosum is the dense network of neural fibers that make brain regions with very different functions work together. All right, you feel me? So this was Albert Einstein's brain. Can you see this corpus callosum? Is just follow my hand from here all the way to here, all the way to here. Now you see it here in this brain, here all the way to here. But if you notice something, look at this part of the brain. Look at here. This part is big. And look at look at this part of a normal brain. Tiny. But look at his own. Big, because he enhanced, he performed activities and learned how to connect his left and right brains together. How did he do this? I'll explain how you can actually do this. Right. Although he wasn't ambidextrous, what is ambidextrous? Ambidextrous simply means being able to use your left and right hand together. All right, being able to use both hands. Okay, so he wasn't ambidextrous. All right, that means that maybe he was only right-handed. He was only right-handed and wasn't, he didn't learn how to use his left hand. That's what it means to be ambidextrous. Someone who is ambidextrous, basically by being a right-handed person and learning how to use your left hand, this can amplify. Normally, this will expand your corpus callosum over time. This is just how it is. So, his brain hemispheres were more symmetrical, which is a trait. Although he wasn't ambidextrous, his brain's hemispheres were more symmetrical, which is a trait of left-handers and the ambidextrous. All right, you feel me? So you see, this is the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere of the brain. This pink part of the brain, this is the path. This is basically the connection between. This is where the corpus callosum, all right, this is the pathway between the corpus callosum. This is this is where it connects. All right, you feel me? So basically, this is the corpus callosum. This is how it is. This is a thin sheet of corpus callosum. But in a case like someone like Albert Einstein, this part had a thicker. It was thicker because he enhanced using both parts of his brain. Now, to the next slide. Right, how the development in habits can affect your brain. All right. In 1995, all right, a study led by neurologist and neuroscientist Gottfried Schlag found that professional musicians who started playing before the age of 7, had an unusual thick corpus callosum. All right, the bundle of axons, all right, that serves as an information superhighway between the left and the right brain, basically, which is the corpus callosum. All right, so now so if kids who learn to play music from a young age, this is an example of the brain of someone who plays music. All right, musicians versus non-musicians. Music is one of the fastest ways of improving. Playing music is the fastest way of helping your right left brain. All right, this is why you see musicians are very highly intellectual people as well as creative. All right, that is very rare to find, a logical as well as a creative person. People are, like I said earlier, are either more left brain or they are more right brain. But musicians like myself, multidimensional, are left brain, have the ability to use the left brain for logical operations and right brain for creative things. All right, you feel me? So it is indeed possible to be intellectual, to be super intellectual and intelligent, as well as highly creative. All right, but this comes as a process of being able to use both your brain and both ventricles. All right, so yeah, with that being said, this is a non-musician's brain, which has a lot to do more with the logical side, boom, and the musician's brain, which has a lot to do with the logical and the creative side, the feminine and the masculine brains. Let's go. Now, these are some examples of people who master the act of using both brains. All right, if you can use both brains, that's some powerful stuff. Coconut water, man. Now, Nikola Tesla. Let's discuss Nikola Tesla, fam. Nikola Tesla wrote about being ambidextrous in his autobiography. He stated, I am ambidextrous now, but then I was left-handed. Damn, man was left-handed in the beginning. All these guys be weird. Then I was left-handed and had comparatively little strength in my right hand. So he's ambidextrous now, which means he eventually learned over the course of time how to use his right hand. So man's became like man's could just pick a pen. Man, left, right. Right. Nah, man. Shit, not cool. Left. Alright. So now next we also have Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was also ambidextrous, right? Handwriting analysis shows, okay, he was left-handed, okay, but he was equally adept at writing and painting with his right hand. All right, new evidence from one of his earliest known works has revealed. All right, you feel me? All right. So boom. So here I have frequencies to synchronize your brain. Okay, our brain is usually in the beta brainwave frequency of alertness and concentration. So it is good to entrain your brain back to alpha. Like I said, beta is the lowest, frequency state of the brain, or rather the highest. Rather, what I mean basically, beta has a lot to do more with the voluntary things and less internal. It has a lot to do more with external expressions of our brain's capacity and not more internal working. So it has a lot to do with putting your brain more in a better state will keep you in a state of doing more voluntary things, work, you think less and you do more. But then taking it from alpha, theta will help you to think more. And then the power of this world is in the mind. The mind is very powerful. With your mind, you can actually change your location. With your mind, you can change your life. With your mind, you can change your characteristics. This is why I tell people, study, read, learn, things of that nature. Anyways, so it is good to entrain your brain back to alpha, theta, or delta frequencies, right? Promoting relaxation while syncing your brain hemispheres. Very important and crucial, okay, fam? So, like I said earlier, get in tune with the alpha, theta, or delta frequencies. Personally, I listen to theta frequency every morning. I don't miss it. Theta or delta frequencies every day. That helps me start my day. 10 minutes alone of theta frequency, you will feel the change in how intelligent you will be. I guarantee you this. All right. So you see the right hemisphere dominance occurs in 10 hertz beats within 25 minutes, and 6 hertz beats enhance all the areas of the brain within minutes. You see 6 hertz has a lot to do with theta waves. So theta waves can actually enhance your right brain in 10 minutes. And 10 hertz has a lot to do with alpha waves. Alpha waves can enhance your right brain in 25 minutes. So alpha waves takes more time to have an impacting effect. Theta hertz, works in a faster time. All right, you feel me? But then, man, that shit it helps you to think. 6 hertz enhances your memory. 4 to 8 hertz. That's your theta. That's theta waves. All right, which has to do with enhancing the temporal lobe of your brain. Now, with that being said, next up we have gamma. All right, we see this is gamma. Like I said, gamma. This is, you can see the frequency states of gamma. Gamma waves resides here. All right, gamma waves. You know, this has to do with peak performance flow, which has a lot to do with very maybe if you want to fighting, like, you know, doing something. Gamma waves, you can listen to gamma waves before you fight, you know, because that's like really high frequency. You see 30 to 100 hertz plus. All right, so I already explained all of this to you guys, you know, beta, you know, 12 to 30 hertz, okay, which has a lot to do with awake, normal, alert consciousness. Alpha, 8 to 8 hertz. You notice the frequency, notice the wavelengths. All right, alpha is 8 to 12 hertz, which has to do with relaxed, calm, lucid, not thinking. Theta has to do with 47 hertz, which deals with deep relaxation, meditation. And delta 1 to 4, which has to do with deep, you know, and dreamless sleep and things of that nature, basically. So there's a difference in the states of consciousness. All right, you feel me? More outside body to more internal mind. With all that being said, this is an illustration of how binaural beats work. By listening to certain binaural beats, they help the brain to bring the brain to a balanced and a normalized state. And what do I mean? You can understand that in this picture. So this is an illustration before and after brainwave synchronization. Now, a normal person, all right, unbalanced brain patterns with weak function, all right, prone to anxiety, depression, and weakened mental states. Can you see how unbalanced and this thing is? But now, after 15 minutes of listening to, let's say, theta hertz, like, which I recommend, all right, meditation. So this is an example of 15 minutes and 20 minutes of meditation. You see, so meditation can balance both brain hemispheres, allowing them to work in sync, all right. What is the result? Neurocommunication of thoughts and responses. Neurocommunication of thoughts and responses multiply, resulting in a better performing, more integrated system, optimizing both mental and emotional health. Okay, so that means that now, due to the fact that this red side of the brain, like you've meditated and everything is settled, what happens now is that your brain is now working together. The corpus callosum is now, you know, is strengthened. Okay, and what happens is, you know, when you've now done other activities and done some things and just done, you've not done more thinking and less, you know, creativity. Now it goes back on balance like this. Boom. This is why I meditate like 3 times a day, 2 times a day, you know. But I always meditate every single day. I have to. Okay, you feel me? I have to, because meditation puts the brain in sync to communicate with each other. I'm logically creating things and I'm creatively, logically expressing things. Anyways, with that being said, that this is basically the importance of meditation. This is what's this thing called again? What do you call this thing? Man, I've forgotten what they call you know, what these pictures. There's something they call them that they use to monitor the flow of X-rays and of energies in the brain, whatever, man. You know, but basically, yeah. If you know it, get it. So now, if you can see here, this is a right brain. All right, this is a right brain. You see, it has to do creative music, you know, and things of this nature. Left brain has to do more with writing and things of that nature. And you see, left brain, right hand. That's why you write with your right hand. Logic. Right brain, left hand. So if you see someone who is left-handed, they are very creative. All right, mind you. All right, you see all these characteristics. Boom. So that's how it works. All right. So with all that being said, in essence, this is you know, an understanding of, you know, the areas of the corpus callosum that are, you know, that are strengthened, okay, and by the lobes of the brain, okay. So the occipital lobe, you know, strengthens, you know, this part of the corpus callosum, which is, you know, the optical cortical areas. When you listen, so this part of the corpus callosum, which is the part that joins your two brains together, is strengthened when you listen to, you know, frequencies that range from 0 to 4 hertz. This part of the corpus callosum, which is the temporary cortical areas, is activated when you listen to frequencies that range from, 4 to 8 hertz. Then this part, the parietal, is stimulated when you listen to frequencies that range between, like I said earlier, 8 hertz to 12 hertz. And then, you know, this will be the placental this, you know, this will be, you know, this basically this ranges in between. So this one here, frontal, is from you know, from 12 hertz to 30 plus hertz, as it was said there, 30 hertz, and this will be in between this and this, in between these two and this. So basically, so the idea here is the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is that white fiber, that white tissue that connects the two brains together and makes them function as one. So if you see in this diagram, this is the right brain, left brain, this will be the corpus callosum, this center. All right, you feel me? So with all that being said, family, that is a rundown of the brain anatomy in the most basic way explained possible. You are now multi-dimensionally tuning out. I hope this, a lecture was able to give you the data that you need in order to understand fully well the inner workings of the human mind. When all that being said, see you in the next multidimensional lecture. All right, and that's gonna be it for now. Multidimensionally signing out. Peace.
Hey, the big man. Listen to the big man.